My guest today has been making quilts for over 2 decades, and she's the mastermind behind the idea of the Thread House Academy. She has designed for a few different companies along the way, as well as magazines, and she has written a few books, including Quick and Easy Quilts and 500 Quilt Blocks. Today, I'll have a chat with UK Quilter Lynne Goldsworthy. Hello and welcome to the Quilter on Fire podcast. I'm Brandy Maslowski, a former firefighter turned quilt professional. As a quilt teacher, speaker, and judge, I travel the globe to bring quilters more joy and less overwhelm. Not too long ago, the quilty life I now lead was just a dream. After many lessons and a lot of hard work, I've transitioned from juggling a day job and a quilting business on the side to becoming a full-time quiltpreneur. I started the Quilter on Fire podcast to create a vibrant community of quilters, artists, and makers. Each episode brings you inspiring stories, insights, and the pure joy of guests from all over the world. If their stories uplift you and spark joy, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and ignite that creative fire within you. I first met today's guest when we shot a video of the threesome of Thread House Academy to let the world know about the wonderful classes, terms, or projects that they run all year long. It was Joe Avery, Karen Lewis, and my guest today, Lynne Goldsworthy. You'll find that video at Quilter on Fire on YouTube to learn more about their story and how to sign up. And while you're there, be sure to give me a follow. But during the video, there's one little tidbit. Lynne mentioned that she was rubbish at posting on social media, and Joe and Karen are always on her back about it. I wasn't sure if that was really true or she was just being humble, so I went on over to her Instagram. It's called Lily's Quilts, and she has over 17,000 followers. That doesn't seem very rubbish to me. And her feed looks pretty lovely too. But it didn't take me long to realize she was telling the truth, actually. She hasn't posted since March. That's like 8 months. But anyways, no shade here because I'm not very consistent with social media either. So today I'll have a chat with pattern designer and prolific quilter, Lynne Goldsworthy. Lynne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be on, honestly. And what a great intro. That was lovely.
Oh, well, I'm thrilled to have you. And I fall down sometimes on social media as well. I try my best. But isn't it a tough thing to put yourself out there like that?
Do you know, for me, it's not the putting myself out there. It's just of all the things I've got to do every day, if I've got to then take photos or make a reel and put it on social media, it's just one more thing. And I kind of try to limit myself to do the things I like doing. And that just doesn't, float my boat, honestly. So that's why Joe is amazing at it. Karen is amazing at it. And I am honestly lazy, which I'm not proud of.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you've surrounded yourself with the right people.
I know, exactly. I totally have. I mean, the three of us working together is a good combination because Joe's the queen of marketing. Karen is the boss of like the look of the website. She has an amazing aesthetic and I do the tech. So we each have our patch that we're good at. And honestly, we're not that great at the other people's patches. So it works really well.
Yeah, well, and I really admire you for having those boundaries as well, because you're doing what you love and you can thrive that way, the three of you, right?
Absolutely. And so if we've got to make a load of buttons or we've got to redesign the website, which we do each year, the whole colorway of it, we know that's Karen's job because Karen is the queen of color and of palette and she's brilliant at that stuff. So each time the new job comes up, we know who's going to be working on it. So it kind of makes it easier as well. Nobody's the boss. We all know what we've got to do. So we work well together.
Yeah, it's true. She is the queen of color. I think on the podcast when I had her on a few weeks ago, I mentioned that when I think of Karen Lewis, I think of this beautiful mustard. And she started laughing. So
her palette, I think she's had the same palette since I've known her.
Yeah.
Since she started, it's that kind of those denim-y blues, the soft grays, the mustard, a kind of a soft brown. She's got a really clear design eye. And if I suggest a palette for the website, oh my gosh, I'll be it's no good, which it usually isn't.
Yeah, that is so true. She did say, I asked her sort of like her path along the way, and she said, it was the same back then as it is now, the same color scheme
I
anyway.
think she's got a really, if you go to her house, she's got a really great design eye. She's got a really good visual eye, and you can see that in everything she does. And I think that's been consistent. She hasn't been kind of influenced by every new fabric line that comes along. She's got a real sort of clear path.
Yeah, she does. Okay, so of course we're talking about Karen Lewis. She has been on the podcast already. Joe Avery will be on the podcast coming soon, but let's get back to Lynne Goldsworthy. So today I want to start by taking a little look back at where you got started. So when do you first remember putting stitch to fabric?
Okay, so my mum sewed a lot. She made curtains, she made clothes. She had even a little business for a few years making soft toys. And so she was happy for me to use her machine, happy to help me. So I started on her machine. And I also started, I think she had these little sort of metallic shapes that were hexagons. So there was one shape for the fabric and one shape for the paper. And then so I did some EPP very early on. I'm two sisters, no recollection of them getting involved whatsoever. So clearly it was only me. And then I carried on, through school, through university. I always had a sewing machine. When the kids were born, then it got difficult. I did not have the time because I've got 4 kids. So I had a long break when I really did nothing. Oh, except my niece was massively into, the film Lilo and Stitch?
Yes.
And she wanted a Lilo dress, that cute little red with the like Hawaiian leaves on. And then her sisters wanted one, and then my daughters wanted one. So I made like 6 Lilo dresses at some point in my history of having kids, but mostly didn't sew again until kind of after, the thick of having kids had passed. So yeah, I think I probably sewed from maybe age 6 or 7. I mean, definitely young.
Yeah, so it sounds like your mom had a really creative impact on you.
She did. She was weirdly, I didn't grow up thinking she was creative. But now looking back, I mean, if you go to my mum's not with us anymore, but if you go to my parents' house, my mum has these amazing dolls' houses that like all different architectural styles that she's designed the interiors for. For a long time, she was making tassels. She's very influenced by Japanese art. There are kimonos hanging up in the house and Japanese dolls. So I don't think I realized that she was very creative and artistic. And it's only in hindsight I've sort of realized that, honestly.
Yeah. So what do you remember about your very first quilt?
Oh gosh. So I was going backwards and forwards I was a lawyer at the time. And I was going backwards and forwards to Washington, and I saw these incredible quilts in the big shopping malls. And I bought, I think it was the Fons. Do you know the Fons and Porter book, which is like one of the classic quilting books? And I sort of played around with that and made bits and pieces. But we really didn't in the UK at that time have the quilting fabrics. We didn't really have the sort of the community. We didn't really have the kind of the whole setup for quilters that we've got now. So I made a quilt. It was really, really ugly. It was really, really basic. It was partly hand done, partly machine done. I mean, it doesn't still exist anymore. It got binned a long, long, long time ago. It was just an ugly, really bad, horrible quilt. But I think I was probably proud of it at the time. But it was, it was pretty grim.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that part of the story, your education, your family life, your transition from school to career before quilting.
Yeah, so I'm one of 3 girls. When Grandpa McLaren died, he gave each of us £100. So Julia bought a camera, and she still does a lot of work in photography. Tanya bought herself flowers every week, and she still does a lot with floristry. And I bought myself a sewing machine, which I had for, oh my gosh, probably 30 years. So it was, £100 doesn't buy you a lot of sewing machines. So it really worked for me over the years. My mum then bought a book called Careers for Girls. And because she had 3 girls, and I literally picked it up, flicked through it. I'd wanted to do something in sewing, but when I got to the sewing page, there was only £1 sign. So I kept flicking. And when I got to the page with lawyer, there were like £5 signs. So I was like, okay, well, there you go. That's what I'm going to do. So I became a lawyer, did that for quite a few years until the kids came along. But that was when I had this legal case in Washington, was when I saw those quilts. So that was when the seed was first planted. But that was literally right before I had Tom, my first. So although I bought a quilting book and I had a bit of a go at quilting, I didn't really get going then because four kids came along and, I had no headspace or any kind of space for a good 20 years. So yeah, it sort of partly my history as a child and partly just the luck of going to Washington when I did and seeing those American quilts and just falling in love with them totally.
Yeah. And speaking of falling in love, you had four kids, which is like a full-time job times four. And
Absolutely.
so it was a 20-year span before you really got back into quilting. So what was the thing that brought you back in?
Oh my gosh. So we moved from London up to where we are now, which is a place called Derbyshire. So it was kind of in the middle of the UK. And my girls were maybe 5 or 6 at that point. They're twins. And I went to pick them up from somebody else's house. They were playing at somebody else's house. And the mother was sitting at the sewing machine and she was sewing these bits of fabric together to make a quilt. And I immediately honed in on this. And I know, what are you doing? Where did you get those fabrics from? And it was just at the beginning of, blogs and Flickr and the new modern fabrics that had come out and the new modern designs, and everything was kind of exploding. And Mandy said to me, go online, look at this blog, look at that blog. And we kind of went backwards and forwards. We went shopping together. We went to Festival of Quilts together. As luck would have it, I've actually moved in 2 doors down from her. So we've been together this morning, sewing and watching a Christmas film. So she really triggered me to restart. And I literally, from that day, I don't think I've stopped since. I was like from 0 to 1,000,000% overnight. I was just immediately obsessed. I started a quilting blog within about 2 weeks. I hadn't even made a quilt, but it just seemed like that's where everybody was. And then Flickr was where everybody was. And you had those international quilting bees and international groups and everybody seeing what everybody else was doing. And then the fabrics that had come out in the meantime, because when I saw quilting back in the sort of 90s, there was really nothing. And then all of a sudden you could get anything and everything, all of those amazing new, even just any line Moda has ever produced, all of those different types of fabrics. It was just like a whole new world. It was incredible. So yeah, that's what kickstarted me from literally 0 into complete obsession.
Yeah, and Flickr was a huge thing in the modern quilting movement.
Flickr was amazing. And it was so great because you could have subgroups and you had these international swaps where you made things for other people, and you had these international bees where you sent quilt blocks around the world. It was like this new world suddenly appeared. And then because I had Mandy, my friend, on my doorstep, I had sort of local and international, if you know what I mean. So I had kind of the best of all worlds. It was amazing. It was life-changing for me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I don't want to glaze over this little tidbit of a moment that you mentioned. Did you say that Mandy came over this morning to watch a Christmas flick and quilt with you?
So Mandy and I, basically, you don't need to be sad for me. I got divorced a couple of years ago, and that was actually, a positive thing.
Yeah.
So I moved from where I lived before into the local town. Now, Mandy had moved here 7 years ago, and I always said, one day I want a house like yours. I love your house so much. And then the house 2 doors from her came up on the market. I said to her, would you mind if I moved in 2 doors from you? She said, oh, I would love that. So we're just in and out of each other's houses all the time. We both love Christmas. We've watched a cheesy Hallmark Christmas movie this morning and we've been sitting sewing together. Yeah, it's been lovely.
Oh, that just sounds so dreamy. And my favorite Christmas film of all time is Love Actually. So,
oh, I love that. Mine is Muppet Christmas Carol, which I think is like the king of all Christmas films. But we watched one this morning called The Christmas Card, which is the cheesiest film you will ever see. But it's both of our, it's a favorite of both of us.
Okay, so fun. So how did your quilting, blossom from there? You obviously went from, lawyer to parent to somehow having a quilty type of business. So tell us that part of the story.
It just happened without me planning it or without me knowing it was going to happen. So I started a blog and that sort of went quite well. And then I was on Flickr and that went quite well. So I was starting to sort of get my name known, as it were. And then I started thinking, okay, well, if people know who I am, then I can ask them for stuff. So I wrote to Oracle and said, I would love to work with you. And they said, absolutely, we'd love to work with you. And I wrote to a company called, did you know Oak Shot Cottons?
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
so I wrote to Michael Oakeshott and said, I'd love to work with you. And he said, absolutely. So I sort of, dared to ask a few people. I emailed Moda and said, I'd love to work with some of your fabrics. And they said, we'd love to. So I sort of had like a little, because you have a following, that gives you a little bit of power to sort of do something with it. And then I think I got a request from a magazine or two. And then I got requests from other people who were writing books, and it would be those collaborative books where you have, say, 20 contributors to the book. Would you like to contribute to a book? Oh my gosh, yes, I would.
Yeah.
And then I got asked, there were a group of quilters, I think there were 5 of them at the time, and they'd had this group called Fat Quarterly. And what it was an online quarterly quilting magazine. And did I want to join them? Oh my gosh, I thought they were like superheroes and so cool that they'd thought up this idea. Did I want to join them? Yes, I'd love to join them. So I did that with them, and we had these enormous London retreats, like 150 people, which it felt like everything was changing. And, and then so I just grew from there. I did magazine work. Then I started designing for fabric companies. And it just became lots and lots of, you know what it's like when you're self-employed. You do anything you can. You'll put your finger in any pie you can to do what you love doing, but to actually try and support yourself. So it's a constant juggle of what could I do next? How could I support myself? Particularly now I'm single, it's even more important for me. So it just sort of, I think once you get your foot in the door, you can almost sort of, as long as you keep working and communicating, you can sort of incrementally keep growing.
Yeah. And so after you were raising the kids, was there a time when you were kind of like, okay, I've got to do the lawyerly thing again? Or did you try to ease right into quilting and leave the lawyer stuff behind?
At the point where I started I always thought I'll have to go back to being a lawyer. I always thought that's what I'll end up doing. I mean, the thought was pretty not that appealing because it's not really a job you can dip in and out of. It's very all-encompassing and overwhelming. And my husband was a lawyer and he worked crazy hours. He was away a lot of the time. So I was really bringing up 4 kids mostly by myself. So I wasn't ready to jump back in. But then this hobby came along. And then bit by bit, I started, by about year 3 or 4 of doing it, I was earning a tiny bit of money from it. Then the next year, a little bit more. Then the next year, I thought, oh my gosh, I need to do a tax return now. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So actually, I had the luxury of being supported by my husband looking after the family. So I could actually kind of reduce how much the kids needed me while I increased how much I was going to do so it happened very organically and not planned. And I certainly wouldn't have imagined, that I would be here being able to support myself doing this. I mean, that just seems, it's like an invented job, it's this job description. None of us, we all juggle about 20 balls trying to work out how on earth we can make this into our lives, so to speak.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like you're reinventing yourself every day. It's true.
You have to be open to kind of, and at the beginning I was open to everything. Anything I was offered, I would take. But then as time's gone by, I can kind of reduce the things I don't love doing. For example, I'm not good at writing. Jo is amazing at writing. So she will often do written articles. I don't do anything like that anymore. I would at the beginning, but it's not a natural skill of mine. So I try to kind of keep the job more or less to the bits I really enjoy doing and the bits I'm good at. I mean, social media, I don't enjoy doing it. I don't find it rewarding or fun or helpful, but I know, you should do it. But luckily I've got Jo and Karen to do it.
Yeah. Just take those shoulds and nudge them off the edge of the table.
I know. You're absolutely right. You're right.
Okay, let's take a moment out of the story now and find out where you're living in the world and who you surround yourself with every day.
Okay, so about 20 years ago, my husband's job took us from London. I'm London born and bred and always lived there. It took us up to Derbyshire, which for me is the middle of nowhere. Not really.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful part of the country. It's not London. So that took a lot of getting used to. We lived in a little village, same village as my friend Mandy, for about 20 years. And then when I got divorced 2 years ago, I moved into the local town. I have a lovely little modern new build house. It's warm, it's comfortable, it's cozy. I am so happy here. I just absolutely love it. It's just been, and living 2 doors from Mandy. I mean, It doesn't get much better than that.
Oh, fun. And so I'm getting the idea that the kids are grown and gone by now.
So I had 2 boys.
Yeah.
Tom's now working in London. Jack's working in Liverpool. Then I had twin girls. and they've gone to university. They've come back from university. So they're home now. I suspect within a year or two or three or four, they want to leave and they want to go off somewhere, but they're sort of finding their feet at the moment. So currently I've got well, here's an interesting story. I've got a 23-year-old and a 24-year-old because they're twins, but they were born 6 weeks apart. So at the moment, between November the 20th and Boxing Day, they're different ages because there were 6 weeks between them. Yeah. So I've got those two living at home with me, which is actually a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, that is cool. What a beginning story they have to tell the world, right?
They do. They have a crazy story. I mean, I don't think they're even that interested in it. Do you know what I mean? That big of a deal for them. It was a big deal for me at the time. It's kind of ancient history to them. Do you know it's like stuff your mum talks about.
Yeah, well, I mean, doing that once, you did it 4 times, but then you did it twice within 6 weeks. That's quite a bit.
I know. I thought once I was pregnant with twins, that's great. That's one pregnancy, because I always wanted 4 kids. One pregnancy, one labor. No, I had 2 labors. That's so unfair.
Oh, okay. So I love to talk about design with all of my guests. So when you see something in the world that sparks a quilting idea for you, how do you capture that?
Okay, so anywhere I go, anything I see, like in shops, I love stationery shops because there's great surface design there. I go to charity shops a lot, and I will buy old quilting books there because I love all design is good design in quilting. And it just doesn't matter that the fabrics have come and gone a little bit. There are always great ideas with the way people have put blocks together and designs. But to get something onto paper, about 15 years ago, I downloaded a £5 app for my iPad called Touch Draw, and I still use it to this day. I can do everything with it. I can produce templates. I can do my step-by-step diagrams. I can mock up quilts on it. I can even drop the fabrics into it. So I can do a mock-up of a quilt and then get the JPEGs of the fabric design, drop those in so I can produce a CAD of what the quilt is going to look like. So everything design-wise, I always start there. So I go to my MacBook and then start to draw up blocks I've seen or shapes I've thought about, I just keep playing and playing and playing and playing, which can last days to design a quilt. Or I can design a quilt in 5 minutes. Sometimes it just drops into place quickly and easily. And then you can see, obviously it's a podcast, you can't, but it's like a chemical table of quilt blocks immediately in front of me. So if I ever need a quilt block to draw on, that's there. I have a huge book, my favorite book, 5,500 quilt blocks. And it's just a line drawing of each quilt block. Great place to start. So anytime I need kicking off for an idea, I've got lots of places to sort of go to, or pictures on my phone of stuff I've seen. So it all sorts of comes in and gets stored, and then bit by bit will come out at some point in the future as a design.
Yeah. So it sounds like Touch Draw is a really good starting point for you. But when it comes to color, where do you pull your color inspiration from?
Okay, so I'm probably, like, in a lot of ways, I don't think I'm like other quilters, and I don't mean I'm better. I think I'm just different. So the way I almost always work is I'll take one collection. So let's say I'm working for the magazine, or even for Thread House, or for Sewing Street when I do work for them. For Sewing Street, they will send me a collection. And what we're going to do is make, let's say, 100, 150 kits from that collection. When I do it for a magazine, the magazine and I will agree what collections we like the look of. I'll email often Moda because their collections are I think they're exceptionally good. They know what they're doing. So they will send me the fabric. So I don't have what I would regard as Joe and Karen's skill with color. I basically rely on the designers to have that skill. I then get the collection in. I tend to look at it and think, I love that, but I would take the pinks out. So, that's the tiny bit of input I have. But I'm not a color wizard like Karen and Joe are, or like so many quilters are. So many quilters seem to have this ease with color that I actually don't have. But I think, well, if you're a fabric designer, you tend to have that skill with the color. So those collections are often a really great place to work from.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because if you're listening right now and you're out there and you're thinking, yeah, I do have a bit of fear of color, or, I don't always put things together well, you can go to the designer's fabric collection and pull a feature fabric that you love the most, and even draw colors from there if you want to use other solids and things like that. So
the salvage of a lot of fabrics is a great place to pull together palette, because they will have, let's say, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 colors.
Yeah.
And you've got a ready-made palette there because the designer knows what they're doing. So they
Yeah.
know how colors go together. So yeah, I think a lot more quilters are scared of color than we think.
Yeah.
Joe and Karen and I find that a certain amount in the thread house when we'll do a pattern for a quilt, and a lot of people will make it in very similar fabrics because I think they feel there's safety in doing what we've done. And a lot of people don't have the confidence to necessarily step out and do their own thing, and don't necessarily have the kind of eye that, let's say, Karen and Joe and a lot of quilt designers have. And I think I'm the same. So I kind of, I hide behind the quilt fabric designers because I think their skill with color is incredible.
Yeah. Okay, so how would you describe the quilting style you gravitate to the most?
Oh, I am so traditional. I am, from the very first quilts I saw, and that Fons and Porter book, for me, it's the sort of the settlers going across the plains, the pioneers making quilts from old dresses. I love a traditional quilt, and I do a lot of work for a traditional quilt magazine in the UK, and I do a certain amount of work for their sister magazine, which is a modern magazine. And to me, the stuff I do for the modern magazine, it doesn't work for me. I don't have that eye. I don't have that, Karen has an amazing modern eye. Joe does. I don't think I do. I think I am well and truly, my comfort zone is a traditional quilt. I love like a double wedding ring or a New York Beauty or a pickle dish, or those really kind of intricate, complicated, lots and lots of small pieces. I love Jen Kingwell because what she does is she takes those designs and somehow brings a kind of a modern twist. But I don't have her skill with color and piecing and pattern job. She's got a million skills that most of us don't have.
Yeah.
But yeah, those traditional quilts, traditional designs, those absolutely sing to me. Totally.
Yeah. Jen Kingwell is quite dreamy, but also people can take a check at your Instagram, even though we joked earlier that you don't post very often. It does have a beautiful aesthetic. And even in the first just scroll, you do see a beautiful wedding ring there, a quilt there. So
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Lily's Quilts while I'm on the topic of your Instagram. So why the type, or sort of, I guess it's not a business. I don't know. Is that your business name, Lily's Quilts?
You know what? Here's the thing. Historically, that day, 2 weeks in when I started my blog, my husband used to call me Lily. I didn't know what to call my blog, and I just pulled that out of thin air and typed it in without a second thought. And I think I really need to kind of regroup and call it, Lynne Goldsworthy Quilts.
Yeah.
But that would, you know what it's like. That would involve doing something about it, changing this, changing that. And sometimes I just don't get around to those jobs.
Yeah. And it's totally okay.
So it was pulled out of thin air on a Sunday night, and I've, lived with it for 20 years, and so be it.
Yeah. Well, we talked a little earlier about some of the different tendrils that you have in your business, including, this collaborative thread house that you're doing with friends. But what do you bring to the world with your business in a nutshell?
Okay, so I think the thing that I would say is my strong suit is pattern design. So designing quilts, I think I'm good at taking a collection and creating a beautiful design from it, and that becoming a pattern. So the work I've done really is all about that. So I worked a lot for a UK fabric company called Macawa, and they would 6 times a year, 8 times a year, send me their JPEGs of their new fabric collections, and we'd work together to make those into a pattern that people would walk into the shops and they would think, I want to make that. Doing the same really with the magazines, so particularly Today's Quilter, because that's more my aesthetic. So bringing a sort of a beautiful line of probably Moda fabrics and producing a pattern that people will want to make either in those fabrics. Often they want to make it in the same fabrics or from their own stash. And then doing the same, working for now that I work for a sort of a TV show called Sewing Street, which is a kind of QVC type channel. And the same thing, again, they'll send me collections of fabrics. And I think, the thing I can do is turn those into a nice looking quilt that people want to buy and people want to make. And sometimes they're incredibly complicated and sometimes they're incredibly simple, because I think it's really important that quilting is available to everybody. So it should be available to the people who've done it for 20 years, but it also should be available to somebody who's literally not even made a quilt before, possibly not even used a sewing machine before. So one of the things we do on that channel is we do a lot of showing people how you're going to put this quilt together, so that they buy the pattern and the kit. But there's also a TV show that will show them, what they need to do and how they can work on it and what's tricky, but what's easy. So we're always asked, does this work for beginners? And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But it's great to have patterns that'll work for everybody.
Yeah. So a lot of pattern design and work for magazines as well. So let's touch on the shopping channel a little bit more. So it's called Sewing Street, and
Yes.
you create patterns using what they bring to the table. But do you actually have to go on TV and show how it's made?
Yes. So for years, they've had various iterations. So they had previous names, and they would ask me to go on, but you have to be about an hour and a half away from my front door by 7 a.m. when you go on, which is not compatible with for small kids. So for years, I said, I'm not going to do it. I also knew I wouldn't be a natural on it, and I would be awkward and uncomfortable. But how it's going to be. It's going to be awful. So I said no for a long time. And then I was at Festival of Quilts a couple of years ago, and I was chatting to a friend of mine. I don't know if you know him, but if you don't, you should track him down and have him on. He's fabulous. He's called Stuart Hillard. And he's on Sewing Street a lot. He won the Great British. No, he didn't win it. He was on the first Great British Sewing, but he's fantastic. He's lovely. And he'd been on there for quite a while. And he said, oh, just come on, just come on. So I said, well, okay, I'll come on, but I'll come on if I can be on with you. I'll be scared otherwise. So I went on with him, and because really you're spending an hour talking about making quilts, and because I'm spending an hour talking with my friend Stuart about making quilts, it was so easy and it was so fun. So I just said, well, I'll carry on doing this. So I go on once a month, and I normally do 2 projects. But then I'm starting to find that I'm doing a magazine project a month, sometimes 2, the Thread House projects, 2 quilts for Sewing Street. I'm kind of up to here at the moment. So I've been telling the magazine and Sewing Street, I just need to slow down for 6 months, because there's no point me working at overcapacity, because I'm supposed to enjoy this job. So I still go on every month, but I won't necessarily do 2 quilts a month.
Yeah, it sounds like you have such good boundaries. So that kind of leads me to this quote that you love: "Perfection is the enemy of good," by Voltaire. So why is that quote meaningful to you?
Because everywhere I go and every time I've taught, I come across the same issue over and over again, which is that people get so upset when it goes wrong. And, if their seams don't match up quite, they get upset and they'll do a certain amount of unpicking. And I just think, when you've made a quilt and it's either you've gifted it to somebody, or it's on a bed, or it's on a sofa, you never, ever go back and look at how the seams match up. You look at the overall thing and the colors and the shapes. And I mean, particularly if you're gifting it to somebody who's not a quilter, they won't even probably look at it that well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It'll just be a kind of a background item. So it's just to try to persuade people. Number 1, it's only patchwork. Don't get stressed about it. And number 2, if you can possibly resist unpicking, just resist it. Just keep moving forward and get the project finished. Because trying to be perfect all the time, it's just you're fighting a losing battle. So I think that's Karen and Joe. Karen, Joe and I all find that particularly when we teach on retreats and so on, that people get so caught up in trying to make a perfect job. And that's not what it's about. It's kind of about just having fun, really, and having a play with fabric.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so let's go there. You have this wonderful collaboration going on with 2 friends called the Thread House. So what is it in a nutshell?
Okay, so about 10 years ago, I'd had this previous collaboration with 2 or 3 friends, and that ended and I missed it. And I thought there's such strength in doing something with other people, because you can it makes you more fearless, because you can try things when 3 of you think it's a good idea. It's fun to have colleagues. We all work in isolation in this job. I sit in the sewing room by myself, and it's fun to have colleagues. Karen and I had got on really well for a long time. I knew Joe, but not very well, but Karen knew her very well. So I asked Karen suggested Joe, and the 3 of us got together, and we just, we haven't looked back. We've done quilt patterns. We did blocks of the month. We pivoted into virtual retreats almost on the day COVID hit. I mean, that was Joe. That was Joe's brilliant. She will jump in always. Karen and I will say, oh, I don't know. And Joe will just jump right in. She's brilliant at that. And then after a while, we decided that we liked the idea of this online teaching academy. So we started that. We're in our third year now. And the idea is you kind of join it like a school, really. So you've got 3 terms or 3 semesters, and each one has a project from me, a project from Karen, and a project from Joe, and then a bonus month. So this year, the bonus month is a block of the month program. And we have so that our workshops go out each month, and you have weekly workshops that you can work through or not, up to you, don't have to. Then we have a couple of Zooms a month, and we can catch up on what people have been working on, and just chat about what they're working on. Generally, doesn't need to be Thread House stuff. So it's built this lovely community, and it's any excuse Karen, Joe, and I have to just work more together. It's brilliant because we get on like 3 sisters. We're so close. We get on like a house on fire. Never been a crossword, never been a sort of awkward, difficult moment, anything like that. We just work it out between us. And it's been the best thing. It really has.
Yeah, I couldn't even think of three actually kinder, happier souls that you guys could put together. So it just sounds like a match made in heaven.
It's been great. It really has.
Okay, so I of course want to mention that I have already had Karen Lewis on the podcast, so you can go back and listen to that. I will be having Joe Avery coming soon on the podcast. And of course, this episode will air soon with you. The thing I want to mention, though, is that I did a video with the 3 of you together, and that is on the YouTube channel. So I really encourage listeners to go and check that out if they want to learn more about Thread House. And it's just a lot of fun. We give you all the details and the prices and the way things roll out in the new year. In May 1st, I think, is the first date that it starts for 2026. So I really encourage you to go and check that out. So let's just see where we want to go next. Let's talk a little bit about brands before we move on to some of the books you've written. So what kind of brands do you love to work with in your business?
Okay, so probably the biggest one, just looking to my right now, is Janome lend both Karen and me a sewing machine. And the beast that they have lent us, I cannot tell you. It's like a dream machine because it's built like an industrial machine. It's got all the bells and whistles of a domestic machine. It's an absolutely incredible machine. And for me, it's genuinely life-changing. I've always had Janomes, but I saw this model come out, and Karen and I both said we need to speak to Janome and see whether they would. And they said yes, and it's an absolute thrill. It's called the CM8, and it's a monster of a machine. And they've just added, Bernina have always had the stitch regulator, which is free motion quilting, and it does the timing for you.
Yeah.
Well, they've added that on this model. So, it's just so fun. It's such a great machine. So that's my biggest one. I work with, same as Joan and Karen, I work with Aurifil. So I use their threads in everything I do, and always name check them in my patterns because their threads, I think they're just brilliant. I think I mentioned to you that if I work with a fabric company, it will probably, in the UK, it would be Makawa. And worldwide, it would almost always be Moda because their fabrics are I think their collections are in a league of their own, and they have so many incredible designers. I love Liberty, of course. I love Tilda. I love lots of other fabrics, but Moda are kind of a go-to. And to anybody who's starting out in quilting, go and buy yourself a fat quarter bundle. And it's just, you get a beautifully created, curated set of fabrics. And then the other one, I should mention the wadding, Vliseline. I don't know if you have that in America. So they do an 80/20, which I use for everything. I've tried lots of different waddings, but for me, that's the one that gives the best result. In terms of that, it gives a good quilted finish, but it's a little bit soft as well. So you actually get that coziness of a quilt. Some waddings are quite kind of cardboardy once the quilt has been quilted. Yeah, those are all my go-tos. So they started with me using their products and then going to them and saying, I'd like to use more of your products. How can we work together?
Yeah, it's a great idea. There's this little notion out there that you shouldn't really say, oh, I'm not affiliated with, I just like it and all this kind of stuff. But you should be affiliated with it. You should ask them for things, and it could be a really great connection, right?
Exactly. And if it works both ways, then it's it's a win-win. And I know Carly Porter said on the podcast you had with her that somebody told her, you just have to ask. You have to, don't wait for things to come to you. You have to ask. And I say that to people. I say, just ask. And maybe 10 times you ask, and one time somebody says yes, don't worry about the 9 silences that you get in response. Just keep asking, because there are lots of people out there who will work with you.
Yeah, that is a really good tip. That's so true. Okay, so you are not drawn to travel much, but you have done France. So what did you do there?
Okay, so that was a few years ago. I got an email from a company, and it was two British women who had this beautiful little sort of almost like a sort of little farmyard set up out in France. And they were going to run these quilting retreats or all kind of sewing retreats. And would I like to go? And I thought, sure, I'd like to go. So it was a week out there. I only had about, it was hardly any, I mean, maybe 10 students, and we all stayed in the accommodation, and then we would go down into the market town and go to the flea markets. And it was kind of like a week's holiday. I mean, I was in theory teaching, but honestly, it was just fun and relaxing and easy. And so I did that for maybe 3 or 4 years, and they no longer do that. I think they had to shut down over COVID when all of those kind of things collapsed. And I think they changed their business model entirely, and they no longer do those retreats. But yeah, no, I'm not a big one for, I've been asked to teach abroad in Australia and America, and I always say no because I don't really want to do it. Lots of people love to do that, and I get that. When I listened to your podcast with Jen Kingwell, and she was talking about how much she travels. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of travel. She goes to all these quilt shows, and I mean, it's a huge chunk of your life that you're doing that. So you got to love it.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. And I know Thread House, the three of you have done wonderful retreats along the way. And now Jo is doing them herself to continue that, right?
Karen, yeah.
Karen is doing them. Sorry. Yeah, Karen's
Yes.
doing
No,
them.
that's
right.
okay. That's okay. Yes. So Joe, Karen, and I decided for a number of reasons that we weren't doing any from next year onwards. But Karen, I mean, the place we go to is beautiful, and it's on Karen's doorstep.
Right.
So Karen is doing one. I'm actually going to go on it because I know it's going to be lovely.
Oh,
Lorena
good.
Piatti is going to be on it, and she's fabulous. So it's going to be a holiday for me this time, rather than it being, not that it's that much hard work. Joe, Karen, and I spending a week in lovely accommodation, chatting to quilters. It's never that much hard work. But yeah, I'll be a paying guest this time, and I will relax and put my feet up and let Karen teach stuff.
That sounds like a dream come true. And I actually love Lorena Yoriashi as well.
She's amazing.
I have to have her on the podcast. I'm going to have to reach out to her.
Oh my gosh, we had an interview with her. So we did this thing called Show Us Your Sewing Room, and we did an interview with her. She was amazing. She really was. She was inspirational. So she totally has to go on your podcast.
Yeah, I know. I talked on Karen's episode of the podcast about meeting her in Australia and seeing the results of her coat class.
And jacket workshops. I mean, she's legendary with her jackets.
Amazing. Yeah, it was so wonderful. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the books you've made along the way. So let's start with Quick and Easy Quilts. How did that come about?
So I just got an email one day from a publishers, and they weren't a craft publisher. They were kind of a general publisher, a lot of cookery books, a sort of, gardening books, and they wanted to do a quilting book. And I've always said when I've been asked to do books, basically, what does it pay? Because it pays almost nothing. Unless you're very smart and you self-publish and so on, it's a very difficult way to make money. So you can put an enormous amount of work into them and actually not make much. So I said to them, how many projects do you want and what will it pay me? And they said, so we had a bit of negotiation going backwards and forwards, and I wanted to make the amount I would make anyway on a quilt. So we ended up at a feasible amount, which worked for me. So I did that book. I loved doing it. My whole kind of shtick is that I cut corners wherever I possibly can. Because if you're making quilts for a living, the more quilts you make, the more you can sustain yourself. So the book was kind of a follow-on from that, in that they are quick and easy quilts. They're not, months and months of hand applique. They'll all be machine projects. They'll all be fast projects. That's my approach to everything is, everything is a shortcut waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And the other one, the 500 quilt blocks, that actually came first. And again, I got an email from a publisher that wasn't a quilting publisher, wasn't a craft publisher, but they do this series of books, and they did 500 crochet blocks, or 500 quick and easy meals, or 500, all, it was a whole range of different books. And would I like to do that? And I thought, well, I'd like to, but I don't want to make 500 blocks. That's way too many. I said, could I do it with a friend? So they said, yeah, do it with a friend. So Kerry Green and I invited her along, and we did it together. And it's a very cute little book. It's a chunky little book. And so that was the first one. So those are the two that I did another one with the Fat Quarterly gang, the three of us. Bryony, Tasha, and I did a book called The Colour Workshop. It was all about colour theory. So those are the three where I've been sort of, name on the spine, so to speak. I've contributed to others, but those are the sort of the three main ones.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a lot of fun. And I love the idea of, cutting corners quick and easy because it doesn't always mean less quality. It just means, saving some brain space. I
Yeah.
remember recently I was at a workshop and I had a newer quilter in one of my classes and she was doing some piecing, but she was building the quilt we were working on piece by piece, block by block. And when I told her that she could pile a dozen things here in a row and do some chain piecing, her mind was just like, what?
Blown.
So sometimes those little corners that you cut are just a really great way to do things a little quicker, right? It doesn't mean lesser
They are.
quality.
And the thing is, some people like the slow process. And
Yeah.
I fully respect that. If that's I think someone like Jen Kingwell, she's a hand piecer. She's not rushing to get things finished. But some people, they want to get it started on a quilt and they want to get it made. So anything you can do, like you say, chain piecing or strip piecing or anything you can do to make the quilt come together more quickly, that's entirely what I'm all about. So that tends to be, if I'm teaching a class, that tends to be a big theme in my class. If Joe's teaching a class, it's hand this and hand that and hand the other. Karen, the same. It's much more meditative, slow, it's two different approaches really. But I think that's great to have the three of us work together and have different approaches kind of being pulled in.
Yeah. I can just imagine your worlds colliding in such a wonderful way. Okay. So you also mentioned to me earlier in another conversation, book zines. I've never heard of that. What is it?
Okay, so all the work I do for magazines, like slowly that builds up. So I've done 3 or 4 or 5 block of the month programs for these magazines I work for, or I've done series of quilts or whatever. And so what they've done a few times now is they'll pull together the stuff I've done for them into one book a zine. So sometimes it will be across lots of makers. So it could be, for example, scrap quilts, and they pull together lots of their scrap quilt patterns, or it could be block of the month programs and they'll pull together all of my block of the month programs. So they'll sell it alongside magazines, and so it's sort of halfway between a book and a magazine. It's like a bumper magazine, and I think it's just a way for magazine companies. It's hard times for them, so I think any
Yeah.
way that they can sort of rework patterns or rework things, and it's a kind of attractive way to buy something because you're getting a lot of patterns for not a huge amount of money. So those have just come along occasionally as and when, and been a bonus for me really, because they've said, can we do this? And I've said, sure. It's no additional work from me. They just kind of collate all the patterns, and
Yeah.
then so it's kind of it's a win-win for both of us really.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Okay, so I'm not really going to get too far into teaching with you because really at this point in your life, it's all about Thread House. So let's remind everyone where they can find Thread House online.
So the website is academy.threadhouse.co.uk. And that's where we host the academy and where we have all of our teaching and our video workshops and our annual programs and our terms and individual workshops. So it's all held on that website.
Yeah, and it sounds like so much fun. And I'm actually just going to read something off your website to give it a little nutshell here. A whole year of weekly video workshops, master classes, and Zoom classes starting on May 1st, 2025, with Joe, Karen, and Lynne. Includes full access to all of the Taster Weekend classes, as well as their new block of the month called Summer Sorbet. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yes, so we always kick off the year with a taster weekend. So the taster weekend is free to anybody who wants to join. It's usually about a month before the thing itself starts. And we each do a mini project for that. And that's fun because it can draw anybody in. Anybody can come along and see what we're all about and get some fun little projects to work on. And then if you subscribe to the annual program, you get to keep those taster classes, which is what a lot of people want to do. And when we first started, we were new to the website that hosts us and we weren't quite sure where we were going with it. But now what we do is we say you get to hold on to your workshops for the lifetime of the academy. So as long as the academy is going, you'll hold on to your workshops. Now that might be, as far as we're concerned, that's going to go for a long, long time, for many, many years. But we didn't want to say forever because, of course, we're going to want to retire at some point. So.
Yeah.
But the idea is, You don't have to do your workshop today or tomorrow. If you want to do it next year, you can. If you want to do it now, you can. You can, some people do it as they're being delivered so that when we have the Zooms, they've done that week's class. And some people are weeks and months behind, and everything is fine. Everyone can work at their own pace.
Yeah, so you can get involved at different levels. So as far as signing up, you can purchase individual classes, you can purchase a term 1 pass, the full year as well, or you can even sign up for lifetime access now. Am I laying that out correctly?
Yes, so basically lifetime access is just as in for the lifetime of the Academy. If you've bought a class, you will still have access to it. So it's all hosted there on the website and you can go back and see it again. But yes, some people have signed up. We'll get an email saying, I want to sign up for all 3 years so that they'll get the back catalogue and can work through the whole lot. And some people have stuck with us for year 1, year 2, year 3. Some people just buy one class that they really like the look of. So we have a mixture of everything in there. And if you're a subscribing member, as in rather than just a single class, that's a kind of a standalone product. But if you subscribe to the term or the year, then you also get access to our community. And that's a bit like a Facebook group, except it's not on Facebook. And some people don't like Facebook. So this is held within the website and you can post pictures and ask for help from other members or from us. And we chat there and we like feedback on what people have made. It's lovely to see people share things they've made from the Thread House or things they've made completely independently, So it's like a Facebook group in that sense, in that people chat there. So it's a kind of the idea was for it to be like a school year, if you know what I mean. So the kids know each other, they chat together, they show each other what they've made. So that was the kind of thinking behind it originally.
Yeah, sounds so good. Okay, so now is there a quilt or quilt project in your life that's been really memorable for you?
So I am going to say that because I make about, let's say, 50 quilts a year, there are lots that stand out. But right now, funnily enough, I was looking at my phone this morning and I was going back through the last 18 months because that's when my whole life has changed massively because of the divorce.
Yeah.
And the 4-year divorce process was very, very hard. But then there came a turning point where everything was starting to fall into place. And one of my daughters and I were in Dublin for a couple of weeks. And during that time, I made about 4 Christmas quilts. And there's something about seeing those 4 Christmas quilts photographed on the balcony of the flat in Dublin. There was a nutcracker quilt. There was a Christmas trees quilt. There was a sort of Christmas stars quilt. There's something about those 4 quilts that kind of remind me of that time where sort of life was all of a sudden beginning to go from a really, really hard time to kind of an exciting future. So at the moment, for some reason, those 4 are in my mind as kind of, my current favorites. But every 6-9 months, there'll be new quilts that I love. And, so it's when you make that many, it's kind of like ever-changing scenery.
Yeah, sometimes it's almost like my next quilt is my favorite because I just get to keep doing it.
Exactly.
Okay, so in your creative practice, what brings you joy?
Oh, I mean, every part of it, getting up in the morning, designing a quilt, even writing the pattern. I even like the kind of logical step-by-step process of writing the pattern, of drawing up the diagrams, of drawing up the blocks, of drawing up the templates. Love making the quilt, love, quilting and binding the quilt. And then that magic happens where it goes from being fabric to a quilt. Every part of it, I love.
Oh, that's so great. Okay. So right now we are going to have a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk all about Lynne's studio space, some more of her quilts and patterns, of course, and what's coming soon. We'll be right back. Something's coming and we're going to have so much fun. Hey friends, it's Brandy here, and I've teamed up with my good friend and creative partner, Mel Beach, to bring you something brand new for 2026. It's the Fiber Fix, a monthly creative challenge for makers who believe that creating is better together. On the first of each month, we'll drop the midnight prompt to inspire you to design and make your own creative fiber art postcard. It's your Fiber Fix, a chance to play, experiment, and stretch your skills, one small joyful project at a time. We're building a stress-free creative online family that cheers each other on, shares ideas, and keeps the creative fire burning all year long with 12 playful fiber art challenges. So if you're ready to grow, connect, and get that monthly spark of inspiration, join the Fiber Fix family today. You can sign up right smack at the top of the homepage at quilteronfire.com. It all starts with a kickoff party on December 30th, and the first midnight prompt drops on January 1st. See you there. And we are back with Lynne Goldsworthy. Lynne, can you tell us about your studio space?
Oh, yes. So when I moved from the previous house to this house, the one requirement I needed was a study, which I got. And when I looked at it, I thought, it's kind of on the small side. I'm going to have to make this work. But you know what? I got a new sewing table. So I've got this big L-shaped table. And you can see I've got all these little Apoca 3 kind of drawers and shelves here and here. So I've got it's all incredibly well organized. And it's just, I get the sun in the morning, so it's light and it's bright. I could not afford to heat the old house. It was this massive Edwardian mansion, and I was always freezing here. If I get cold, I've got my heating app on my phone. I mean, I love it here so much. I'm so happy here. So yeah, this is my happy place.
Oh, that's so great. And so what's your favorite time of day?
Oh, first thing in the morning. I think having 4 kids means that first thing in the morning is that time when nobody else is up and you get just a little bit of headspace. And I think really with having children, I then became a morning person, and I'm still a morning person. And I can start work at 6 o'clock in the morning. Same as you, actually, in fairness, you're starting at 6 today.
Yeah.
So yeah, tiptoe downstairs, cup of tea, get sewing. I love it.
Yeah, like 6 a.m. for me is like 2 p.m. in the UK. So I'm often doing interviews or meetings like that. But speaking of headspace, what's the best thing you do for your own self-care?
Okay, so my kind of life philosophy since the divorce and since I'm standing on my own 2 feet now, I'm earning my own income. What do I want to spend my money on? So basically, my life philosophy now is I work to go on holiday. So I work hard, and then I'll go away, to visit friends for a weekend, or to visit family for a weekend, or go away for a proper holiday, a week in the sun or a week on a city break. So as much as I can, my life is punctuated by that, which for me is like the ultimate self-care.
Yeah, that's a good plan. You work so you can play, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Always planning the next holiday. So my current plan is May, I'm going to Rome for 3 days with my sisters. They then leave. My boyfriend joins me. We do Rome, then we do Siena, then we do Siracusa. And yeah, I mean, how great does that sound? Like a week in Italy.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. Okay, so usually at this time in the podcast, we get into the patterns and all the things that you sell, but you don't actually have a website of your patterns. So we can find your work at the Sewing Street and Thread House and Gathered Shop. What's Gathered Shop?
So that Gathered is basically the company that owns the magazines I work for.
Okay.
And what they do is where they've got your more popular patterns, they sell those. So the magazine patterns I've done, they sell those as patterns on their website. So there's a page for my patterns on there. Same on Sewing Street. All of the patterns I've done for them since I started working for them, they're all on their website. You can buy those kind of in perpetuity. So those are the places where my patterns are for sale. And then obviously if you buy, workshops through the Thread House, you get the pattern then as well as the workshop video. So I don't have a website as such. I don't do my own retail of any sort, but they're available in those places.
Yeah. And something hit me a moment ago when you said you make about 50 quilts per year, because here I am in my business trying to pull off maybe 2 or 3 a year. So let's touch on why quilting does the body good for you. Like, why is it your kind of saving grace?
I think you have to look after your body if you're quilting. You have to make sure that ergonomically you're sitting right and your everything's at right angle. So that's really important. But I think mentally, for everyone I know who does this, there is a hobby or for a living, it's meditative, it's creative, it's joyful. It brings me joy every day of the week. I cannot believe I do this for a job. And a friend of mine who's never made a quilt in her life before started this summer and is on about quilt 3, and the joy it brings her. She's absolutely overwhelmed with the thrill of, the fabric and the patterns and putting it together and the achievement and the creativity. So I think mentally it does, any hobby that you love does you so much good. So that's it for me.
Yeah. And there's just some kind of joy about walking around the corner and seeing a table runner you've made on the Christmas table. And then you say to everyone, flip it over so we don't get it dirty.
I don't use a table runner, and I don't use quilted placemats. I don't know how people can not worry about the gravy getting on them. I mean, that's crazy.
I have a trick. I have a trick. I have a beautiful table one runner that is all white and navyish colors, and definitely would get ruined if we had it out on the table. But the back is navy, so we flip it over before I lay out all the food, and it's still beautiful. But
that's the way to do it. I've never thought of that. That is absolutely the way to do it.
yeah. But I mean, it's all washable, and you can always use colors that are similar to food colors. That would probably work too.
You're right. That's a good point.
That would probably work too. Okay, so the big news coming soon that we've been talking about throughout this podcast is the Thread House Academy for 2026. It kicks off in May, but really, I encourage you to go check it out early to secure a spot if you want to be involved. They have sneak peeks, like we mentioned earlier, and everything, so that you can find out exactly what it's all about and really get an idea of what these three women are doing and what kind of teachers they are, right? So you want to definitely check it out early. So Lynne, what's on your design wall right now?
So at the moment, I've got three things I'm working on. Number one is a quilt for Sewing Street, and that is it's like a great big mandala design, so a huge circular design with lots and lots of raw edge applique. So it's basically cutting and sticking. So that's going to be a great beginner project for Sewing Street. Then I'm doing a quilt for the Thread House. So that's going to be for my term. My next term my next month is January. So I'm putting together the quilt at the moment, which means also doing the workshops. And it's kind of lots of Dresdens, and some of them are double layered Dresdens and little circles inside. So it's a really cute kind of Dresden pattern. So I'm doing that and doing the workshop. And then the third thing I'm doing, now this came out of left field for me about 2 months ago. I went to a reunion of the people that joined my law firm on the day we joined 35 years ago. So 40 of us joined on the same day, and about 30 of us made the reunion. And I think there was one friend of mine who's now doing breathwork classes. I'm doing quilting. Everybody else is still lawyers. I thought they would be like a bit snooty or a bit dismissive or a bit patronizing. And they weren't at all. They were so nice and so interested and asking me about what I do. And one of the guys there, who's now a partner at this firm, so he's banking it. He said, do you ever make commissions? And I said, no, because, when I tell people what they would have to pay, they say, well, I could buy it cheaper in TK Maxx. So I say, well, go buy it cheaper in TK Maxx because the quilt is expensive. I mean, the fabrics and the time, it's an expense. So I don't do commissions. And he said, well, what would you charge? And I told him, and he said, well, I'd like to commission maybe 10 or 12 of those. Because he said he's got these friends or colleagues or people he works with, clients, who have more money than sense. So you can't buy them anything. There's no gift you can buy the people who are that rich. But he said like a unique item, like a quilt. So he's commissioning this series of quilts. So one of them is the logo of a football club. One of them is the logo of a rugby club. One of them is a logo of a golf club. So these, how fun is that? These are like completely out of my normal, traditional quilts from the pioneers going across the plains. So I'm having a load of fun with those.
Yeah. Oh, and what a beautiful open mind. First of all, 30 people showing up at an event that originally started with 40 people is a great turnout, but the fact that they looked on you with those wonderful eyes and they weren't judgmental or, they weren't like, huge. What do you mean quilting? We come across that once in a while.
They were so nice about it. They were so kind of interested and appreciative and asked lots of questions. And I think the thing is, when we all started 35 years ago, we all thought we were the big I am, working as London lawyers. But life knocks the edges off everybody, and everybody's a lot more humble and modest and human now than we all were back then. So, it was a lovely get-together. It was really nice.
Oh, that is so sweet. Okay, so now it's time for the lightning round, Robin. It's a series.
I'm looking forward to this.
It's a series of rapid-fire questions, and it's super fun. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite tool or notion?
Oh, gosh, sewing machine. I know it's not a tool and I know it's not a notion, but that beast is like a lifesaver for me. Absolutely, my sewing machine.
Okay. What triggers inspiration for you?
Oh, my gosh, anything and everything, but probably most of all, other antique quilts. When I see antique quilts, that really does it for me. They're not always beautifully made because, you're making them by hand in those days. So a lot of kind of particular work has gone into them, but just the feel of those antique quilts will always trigger something for me.
Okay. And how many UFOs do you have going on at once in your studio?
Okay, none at all. That's why I'm a weird quilter. I have no fabric stash. I don't keep my quilts and I have no UFOs. I'm weirdly disciplined. So I start a quilt, I finish it, and I start the next one. And that's partly because it's a business. So I know that this month, for example, I've got to make 2 quilts for this, 1 quilt for this, 1 quilt for this. So I have to get them made or I don't get paid.
I have never had that answer on the podcast.
No, Joe and Karen tell me I'm weird.
I think it's perfectly disciplined. And well, I have no excuse because I have a business too. And I have dozens and dozens, maybe 100. I don't know how many UFOs I have. I really need to get on that, but very admirable, I must say. Okay. So what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning?
Oh, it's always, funnily enough, Stuart and I were talking about this, the guy I told you about before from Sewing Street. And he said, do you ever just start work in your pajamas? And I said, I don't. I always get dressed. I do, clear out the kitchen, make a cup of tea, full face of makeup. But he says he can be so excited to start work that he will start work in his pajamas. But I think we both feel the same thing, that when we get up in the morning, it's like, oh, what quilt am I making today? Or what quilt am I designing? Or like at the moment, there's a guy, one of the presenters on Sewing Street, he's bringing out a fabric line next April, and I'm doing 2 projects in those fabrics, and I'm designing those at the moment, and that's fun because it's fabrics that a friend has designed, and it's going to be fun to be on the show and show those off. And so yeah, it's the design, it's the sewing, it's just the job gets me up every morning.
Yeah. Oh, that is so fun. That's really good. And I find I'm actually a little more productive when I get up and shower and change and get dressed and I'm
Yes,
done, rather than I'll just mill around a little more if I'm in my pajamas, or I'll be more casual, or I'll scroll more and have a cup of tea. Like I'll feel like it's a weekend if I stay in my pajamas.
exactly. I mean, it was like during COVID, a lot of people had pajama days. Same as you, I'm not productive if I was to spend any time in my pajamas. I would just feel sort of, I don't know, I feel like I'm up, I'm doing it, I'm working. I don't know. Yeah.
I think my very first post on social media during the pandemic was something about I just can't get over these baggy sweats. I just can't get over myself, or something like that. It was hilarious. But I mean, self-admittedly, when I do get dressed, I get so much more done in my studio. So it just
Yes,
makes sense
I
to me.
totally agree. I can't even wear sweatpants. I can't wear them. They're too much pajamas for me. It's a
Yeah.
proper pair of jeans every day. I don't know.
Okay. So let's see what the next question is. What is a skill you'd love to learn?
Oh, I'd love to learn how to needle turn a plique like Jo does. You see her doing that. She makes it look so easy. And she'll do like a little circle about that big. There'll be no bumpy edges on it. And she's just sitting there chatting away, sewing. So, yeah, I don't even dare try because I know I'm going to fail and I don't want to fail. And how many times have I been on retreats and Joe's teaching it and I should have sat there,
Yeah.
listened and learned, and I didn't. So yes, that's a big regret. And I
Oh,
probably never will. I probably never will.
oh, but you'd take it on so quickly, especially with Joe at your side.
With Joe telling me I would.
Yeah, I have to give her a little plug here because she had a beautiful display of quilts at Festival of Quilts last year. And I invited her to be a part of my tour next year because instead of England and Wales, we're doing Scotland and then the Festival of Quilts. So she is going to be one day on our stop and we will all be learning from her. So I couldn't resist the urge to give her a little plug here. But
Everybody will love her. She's an amazing teacher. She is a hilarious chatterbox. She has this amazing house, which her husband has pretty much built over the past year. Incredible quilts. That'll be such a great stop.
yeah, she is wonderful. We're not actually going to her home, but we are bringing her in. We're going to be looking at a display of quilts somewhere and bringing her in to teach us for a day. And I'm sure it will be handwork, but I'm really looking forward to
Your
it.
students will have so much fun. Her classes are lovely.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we in the lightning round robin? So has there been a mentor who has really influenced you along your journey?
Oh my gosh. I mean, so many. I talk about Mandy, my neighbor two doors down. She was the one who kick-started me. Stuart, who got me on Sewing Street. Karen and Joe, for me, just working with them. I think those would be the main ones that are just like my big influences, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Well, let's just take a moment to give a shout out to your friend Mandy because you talked about her earlier, how she really got you into it. You do actually get together and watch movies and quilt. So, what's your favorite thing about her?
Oh my gosh, she's the kindest, warmest, most empathetic person. My daughters adore her. I adore her. Like she's like therapy. When you spend an hour with Mandy, you feel so much better afterwards. She's just a really special person,
Oh, it's so nice to have that friend in your corner.
isn't it just?
Yeah. Okay. So, what is your proudest accomplishment?
Oh gosh, you know what? Probably right now, it's probably the fact that I went on TV and I could actually do it because I thought I'm going to go on and I'm just going to be a deer in the headlights and not know what to say and stammer and shake and actually to go on and do it and enjoy it and love being there. You know, I go there and there's all these young people, I mean, young to me, that run the studio and that you work with, and they're fun and they're creative and it's just so exciting. So I think for me, that's at the moment is the thing that gives me a real buzz,
Yeah.
is doing that. So I've only been doing it for about a year and it's been kind of life changing for me, honestly.
Yeah, that is so great. And I really believe that your success there is probably backed by the fact that you make 50 quilts a year and you have put your head down and done the work. And you just, it's almost like if you're doing a presentation and all of a sudden your computer wasn't working, you'd know in the back of your mind how to do it anyway. So
Yes.
you probably have that comfort.
Because when you're doing a demo on telly, it goes wrong all the time. And I think if I hadn't made, however many thousands of quilts, I probably might panic. But because, you're on telly, of course it goes wrong, but it doesn't
Yeah.
phase, doesn't worry me. It's just part of the process. And yeah, I mean, all of the knowledge is in there. I don't need to think about what to say. It's almost like I need to edit myself, if anything, because
Yeah.
I can just keep talking all day quilting.
Yeah, that's so great. Well, that was really fun. So thank you for braving the lightning round, Robin. So I've mentioned the website, academy.thethreadhouse.co.uk. You really pulled this website together yourself, apparently. I hear this from the other two.
I did.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how that came together.
Okay, so we talked about this idea about how we were going to do this online teaching academy, and we met up. So we meet up about once a year. In fact, we're meeting up in a couple of weeks up at Joe's house in Edinburgh, which will be a lot of fun. But we were meeting up, and because Joe is the one who takes the time to plan ahead. So she's not the boss of us, but she's the one who really says, I think we need to do this. I think we need to do that. So she turned to Karen and she said, I think we need a new retreat destination. I want you on that. And she turned to me and she said, and you need to, or in a nicer way than this, can you look into how we're going to set this website up, where we're going to set it up, and then you can set it up. And I said, yeah, sure. No, that's absolutely fine. No problem at all. And I thought, oh my God, there's no way I can do that. I was absolutely terrified. And during the whole process, I kept saying to her, I can't do it, Joe. It's too difficult. I don't know what I'm doing. This is so complicated. And she would just say to me, okay, don't worry, take your time. And each time she said that, I was like, okay, I probably can do this. I'll keep going on. And then we pulled it all together eventually. But it was like a very, very steep learning curve. I have to say it was scary.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys work so well together. So tell us a little bit more about the three roles that each of you play in the Thread House Academy.
Okay, so Joe, I think because she's had shops all her life and had a retail business all her life in various guises, she's reinvented herself from homeware shops to embroidery business to her quilting shop. So she's got a really good brain for marketing, for how we're going to take things forward. Her brain she has synesthesia, which plays itself in a number of ways, colors, substituting for words and so on. But she has this incredible vision of how the year looks. And in fact, if you ask her any question, when did Lynne start her blog? She can tell you the date and the year because her brain retains this information. So she pictures the whole year. She knows where we're going, when we're going to do it, working back from there, when we need to start announcing it, thinking about it. So she's the brains of kind of the mechanics of it and the marketing of it. She knows how to market. I mean, you look at her Instagram, I think she's got 100,000 followers. She is brilliant at putting her name out there, pulling people in, getting people involved in the community. I would say that's her, along with, of course, her incredible improv quilting, which is what draws so many people to the Thread House. Then Karen was a maths teacher. So she does the money because her brain can work with spreadsheets, and she gets it. She understands it. She always has a good, Joe and I will say, oh, can we have some money this month? And Karen says, no, because we need to pay for this, and this, and we've got this coming in. We're thinking, we don't think about that. We just ask for pocket money now and then. Hope that she'll give us, we'll probably ask for some soon because it's Christmas. So she's got that part of it where she keeps that in her brain, and that's how her brain works. But obviously the other parts, as well as her incredible handwork and her incredibly I think she has this very cool design eye. She's very cool. She's an interior designer in a lot of ways. If you go to her house is beautifully curated. So she does that. And that's why the look of the website, that's Karen's domain. I'll throw together the bones of it at any point, but she will completely reshuffle it and kind of roll her eyes at my use of color and so on. So she is the brains behind how things look always. And then, yes, I've become the tech one. So I'm the most techie of the three of us. Give you an example. On the first virtual retreat, which Joe and Karen did without me because I was taking a breather, they did not know that you could stitch bits of video together. So they were recording workshops. The front doorbell would ring. Joe would go and answer the front doorbell, chat to the postman, come back. That all went into the video workshop. So when I came along and said, let's stitch these together, they were like, we didn't know you could do that. We didn't know that you could edit video. So I've become the kind of tech, queen, as it were. But the great thing is, because we've all got different roles, we all sort of feel relief that we're kind of indispensable. We kind of joke we're going to get rid of Lynne, but I think no, because I'm the one who knows how to do the website. You can't get rid of me, or we're going to get rid of Joe. Well, we'd fall apart at the seams if we got rid of Joe. I mean, we just would. So yes, it's those lots of different quilting styles, but it's really our different approaches in sort of running the business that's what makes it work really well, I think.
Yeah. And all three of you have sort of equal parts in the pattern design and delivering the things that are happening in the course. So if you go to the website, again, it's academy.thethreadhouse.co.uk. You'll see the full lineup for the year. And there's this perfect little grid that shows you what's up on the website. Term 1 is tiny, term 2 is shapes, and term 3 is folk art. So there's just so many things going on. So I really encourage you to go over there and check it out. So we know that you are Lily's Quilts on Instagram, but where's the best place for us to connect with Thread House Academy on social media?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked Thread House Academy and not me. That's such a relief. I've heard you ask that question to so many people, and I thought, I'm going to answer that. Yes, so Instagram is the best place, or Facebook kind of secondary to Instagram, as in when we post on Instagram, we post to Facebook, but really Instagram, and that's Thread House UK. So not the on the beginning, because when we set that up, the Thread House was already taken by somebody else. So it's Thread House UK over there. So yes, that is the best place.
Okay, so go check out Thread House UK on Instagram to find out what's going on, and you can see what's ramping up early in the new year. You'll be able to see what's coming soon. Now, as we wrap up, Lynne, what do you want people to take away most from our conversation today?
Okay, so I think a couple of things. One, throw yourself in there. Don't be scared of color, because I think that's what so many people are scared of. And don't aim for perfection is what I say to everybody all the time, because I think that's the thing that's kind of robs the joy out of it for people. So try to get things finished, not perfect.
Yeah, that is so true. That is such a good way to end the podcast. Lynne, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be on here.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun. So that was my show with Lynne Goldsworthy. One thing I really admire about Lynne is her boundaries. She's not one for the socials, so she doesn't succumb to the I must post twice a day mentality. She just lives her life on her own terms. She also isn't a huge fan of travel and would rather be home with family and quilting and friends, so she's built an online educational platform with friends to suit her life perfectly. So be sure to check out the Thread House Academy. These three women bring so much to the table in this academy, and their stories are so unique that we've done a video feature of the academy, and I'll be having each of them on the podcast as well. I'm a sucker for good stories about good people. So you can find the Thread House Academy video on the Quilter on Fire YouTube channel, and while you're there, be sure to subscribe. And don't forget The podcast episode with Karen Lewis is already up, so you can listen to that anytime. And coming soon, Joe Avery will be my guest as well. But today, I loved sharing the story of Lynne Goldsworthy and the Thread House Academy with you. Quilter on Fire is now on YouTube, and it's packed with brand new weekly content. What's waiting for you? Fun and easy tutorials to follow, exciting unboxings, exclusive interviews with top quilters and artists at the biggest quilt shows like Houston and QuiltCon. If you love Quilter on Fire on the podcast, you're going to be blown away by our YouTube channel. Don't miss out. Subscribe to Quilter on Fire on YouTube today. Let's ignite your passion for quilting. Thank you for listening to the Quilter on Fire podcast. Remember to rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. Your support helps me reach more quilters just like you, striving for that perfect quilty lifestyle. Click on those 5 stars and share what you loved most about today's episode. Don't forget to hit the follow button if you haven't already. With new episodes dropping weekly, you won't want to miss out on the inspiring stories and tips we have in store. Until next time, dream big and have fun in the studio with the Quilter on Fire.